The ship moved slowly through the empty space between stars. It was a survey vessel, built for long journeys and careful study. The crew had been traveling for 3 cycles, mapping unknown regions of the galaxy. They were tired but still focused on their work. Commander Veltris stood at the center of the bridge. His tall body was covered in smooth blue scales, and his 4 eyes watched the main screen with growing interest. The sensors had found something strange. A planet existed in a system that was supposed to be empty. "Bring up all the data," Veltris ordered. His voice was calm, but his crew could sense his curiosity. The science officer, a small creature named Brill with 6 thin legs and a round body, worked quickly at the console. Numbers and images filled the screen. Brill made a clicking sound that meant surprise. "Commander, this is very unusual," Brill said. "The planet has an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. It has liquid water on the surface. It shows signs of biological activity." "That sounds promising," Veltris replied. "Perhaps we have found a garden world. Those are rare in this sector." Brill clicked again, this time with worry. "No, Commander. I am running the classification protocols now. The results are, I think there must be an error." Again. Veltris walked closer to the screen. "Show me." The data appeared in bright colors. Red warning symbols flashed across every category. The planet's gravity was crushing. The radiation from its star was intense. The atmosphere contained a dangerous amount of oxygen, which could cause fires anywhere and poison most species. The water was filled with salt and acids, and the life forms, the biological readings, showed millions of different species, many of them predators, with extreme killing ability. "Class 15. Brill whispered. "Commander, this planet is a Class 15 death world." The bridge went silent. Every crew member stopped their work and looked at the screen. Class 15 was the highest danger rating in the galactic database. It meant a world so hostile that no intelligent species could possibly evolve there. It meant a planet that would kill visitors within minutes. "Are you certain?" Veltris asked. "I have checked 3 times," Brill answered. "The classification is correct. The gravity alone would break our bones. The oxygen levels would burn our lungs. The water would melt our skin. And the creatures, Commander? Some of these animals are larger than our ship." Veltris studied the data carefully. His people, the Valorians, had explored thousands of worlds. They had seen dangerous planets before. But a Class 15 was something else entirely. It was the stuff of nightmares, the type of world that appeared in scary stories told to young children. "We should mark it on the charts and leave," said the navigator, a nervous Valorian named Driss. "There is nothing for us here." "Wait," Brill said suddenly. His legs tapped against the floor with excitement. "Commander, I am detecting something else. There are artificial structures on the surface." "That is impossible," Veltris said. "I am looking at the readings right now. There are buildings, roads, signs of technology, and..." Brill paused, his voice becoming very quiet. "There are life signs, intelligent life signs, millions of them." The crew exchanged looks of disbelief. A civilization on a Class 15 death world? It could not be real. Nothing could survive on such a planet, let alone build cities. "Send a probe," Veltris commanded. "I want visual confirmation." The probe launched from the ship and entered the planet's atmosphere. The crew watched as it descended through thick clouds and violent winds. Lightning struck nearby, and the probe shook from the turbulence. Just the weather alone was enough to destroy most spacecraft. But the probe survived and continued downward. It broke through the clouds and revealed the surface below. Veltris felt his heart stop. There was a city. A massive city with tall buildings that touched the sky. Vehicles moved along wide roads. Aircraft flew between the towers. And everywhere, there were beings walking around as if nothing was wrong. They were strange creatures. They had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin came in different shades of brown and pink. They wore coverings on their bodies, and they moved with surprising grace, despite the crushing gravity. "What are they?" Driss whispered. "Unknown species," Brill reported. "They are not in our database. They appear to be native to this world." "Native," Veltris repeated. "You mean they evolved here? On a Class 15 Death World?" "It appears so, Commander." The probe flew lower over the city. It captured images of the creatures going about their daily lives. They were eating food that the probe's sensors identified as toxic to most galactic species. They were drinking the dangerous water without any protection. Some of them were running. Actually running. For what seemed to be entertainment. Running in gravity that would kill a Valorian in seconds. One of the creatures looked up and saw the probe. It pointed at the sky and smiled, showing rows of white teeth designed for tearing flesh. Other creatures gathered and looked up as well. They did not seem afraid. They seemed curious. "Commander," Brill said slowly, "I believe they have seen us." Veltris watched the screen with a mixture of fear and amazement. His entire understanding of the universe was changing in this moment. Everything he knew about planetary classification, about the limits of life, about what was possible, all of it was wrong. A Class 15 Death World was not supposed to have intelligent life. It was not supposed to have civilizations. It was supposed to be a dead end. A mistake of nature. A world that existed only to kill. But these creatures had done more than survive. They had conquered this impossible place. They had built cities and technology. They had made the deadliest world in the known galaxy their home. "We need to make contact," Veltris said finally. "We need to learn how they did this." "Commander, that is extremely dangerous," Driss protested. "We cannot survive on that surface. Then we will find a way. We will wear protective suits. We will take medicine. We will do whatever is necessary." Veltris turned to face his crew. "Do you understand what this means? A species that can live on a Class 15 world is a species unlike any we have ever encountered. They could be the most powerful beings in the galaxy. We must know who they are." The crew was silent, but they understood. This discovery would change everything. The survey of a forgotten sector had become the most important moment in galactic history. The unknown species on the Death World had no idea that visitors were watching them. They continued their normal lives, unaware that the galaxy was about to learn a terrifying truth. Earth was not a paradise. It was a monster. And the humans who lived there were monsters too. Monsters that the rest of the universe had never imagined could exist. The Valorian ship descended slowly toward the planet's surface. Every alarm on the vessel was screaming. The computer warned about the gravity, the radiation, the atmospheric composition, and dozens of other deadly factors. Commander Veltris ignored all of them. The crew wore their heaviest protective suits. These suits were designed for emergency situations, for brief exposure to hostile environments. They were never meant for extended use on a Class 15 world, but they were the only option. "Landing in 30 seconds, Driss announced from the pilot's seat. His voice shook with fear. "Commander, I must say again that this is a very bad idea." "Your opinion is noted," Veltris replied. "Continue the descent." The ship touched down in an open area near the edge of the city. The ground was covered in some kind of green growth plants. According to the sensors, dangerous plants that produced oxygen and could trigger fires. Veltris looked at his science officer. "Brill, what is the status?" "The suits are holding," Brill reported. "We have approximately 4 hours of protection before the radiation begins to damage our cells. The gravity enhancers are working, but they use a lot of power. We should not stay longer than necessary." "Understood. Open the door." The ship's door slid open, and the alien air rushed inside. Even through his suit, Veltris could feel the weight of this world pressing down on him. Every step required effort. Every breath felt wrong. He walked down the ramp and stood on the surface of the Death World. The sunlight was bright and harsh. The sky was a strange blue color that hurt his eyes, and everywhere around him, life was growing and moving, and existing in ways that should have been impossible. "Commander, look," Brill said, pointing with one of his legs. 2 of the native creatures were approaching. They walked upright on their two legs, moving with ease through the crushing gravity. One was slightly taller than the other. Both wore simple coverings and had expressions that Veltris could not read. The taller one raised a limb in what might have been a greeting. It made sounds with its mouth speech, clearly, but in a language the translator could not understand. Veltris activated his communication device. "We come in peace," he said. "We are explorers from the Galactic Union." The device translated his words into the local language. The two natives looked at each other with wide eyes. Then they responded. "Hello," the taller one said, the translator working quickly. "My name is Yuna. This is my colleague Teho. We work at the research center nearby. Are you actually aliens?" "Yes," Veltris confirmed. "We are from a world very far from here." Yuna made a sound that the translator identified as laughter. "This is amazing! We always wondered if there was life out there. And now you are here. Welcome to Earth." Earth. So that was what they called this terrible place. Teho stepped forward. He was looking at the Valorians with concern. "Are you okay? You seem to be having trouble standing." "The gravity on this world is very strong," Veltris explained. "It is difficult for us." "Oh," Yuna said. "I guess it would be. For us it is just normal." She looked at the ship, then back at the visitors. "Please, come inside the research center. You can sit down and rest. We have so many questions for you." The Valorians followed the two humans across the open ground. Every step was a struggle. Brill stumbled once, and Teho quickly reached out to help him. "Be careful," Teho said kindly. "The ground here can be uneven." Inside the building, the aliens were given chairs to sit in. The relief was immediate. Veltris felt his muscles relax slightly, though the gravity still pulled at every part of his body. Yuna brought containers filled with liquid. "This is water. Would you like some?" Brill made a frightened clicking sound. "That is toxic to our species. The salt content alone would kill us." Yuna looked surprised. "Really? Water is toxic to you?" She glanced at Teho. "But water is essential for life. Everything needs water." "Not our kind of life," Veltris said. "Your water contains substances that would burn our internal organs." The humans exchanged strange looks. They seemed confused and a little sad. "What about food?" Teho asked. "Are you hungry? We have many things to eat." Brill checked his scanner and then clicked with alarm. "Commander, everything in this building registers as poison. The food, the plants in those containers, even the air freshener on that shelf, all of it is deadly." "We brought our own supplies," Veltris assured the humans. "Thank you for the offer." Yuna sat down across from them. Her eyes were bright with curiosity. "I have so many questions. Where are you from? How far did you travel? How does your ship work?" "We come from a planet called Valoria," Veltris answered. "It is approximately 40 light-years from here. Our ship uses gravity manipulation technology for faster-than-light travel." 40 light-years, Teho repeated with wonder. "That is incredible. We have only sent probes to our nearest star." "Your species has not developed interstellar travel?" Veltris asked. "Not yet," Yuna admitted. "We are working on it. Maybe in another 100 years. This confused Veltris greatly. A species capable of surviving on a Class 15 world should be far more advanced. They had clearly conquered their environment. Why had they not conquered space as well? "May I ask a question?" Veltris said. "How do you survive here? This planet is extremely dangerous by galactic standards." Yuna tilted her head. "Dangerous? What do you mean?" "The gravity would crush most species. The radiation from your star causes genetic damage. Your atmosphere is filled with reactive oxygen. Your water is corrosive. Your planet is covered with predators that could kill with a single bite. How do you live with all of this?" The two humans looked at each other again. Then they started laughing. "I am sorry," Yuna said, trying to control herself. "We do not mean to be rude. It is just, we never thought of Earth as dangerous. It is our home. It is all we have ever known. The things you mentioned are just normal to us," Teho added. Yes, the sun can burn our skin if we stay outside too long. Yes, some animals are dangerous. But we have learned to deal with these things. We wear protection from the sun. We stay away from dangerous animals. We are careful. Careful? Brill repeated. Your casualness about these dangers is itself dangerous. Do you not understand that you live on one of the deadliest worlds in the known galaxy? Yuna smiled gently. I think maybe your definitions are different from ours. What you call deadly, we call Tuesday. Veltris stared at her. The translator had done its work, but he still could not fully understand. These creatures were not afraid. They were not even impressed by the danger around them. They simply accepted it as part of existence. You mentioned predators, Tejo said. We have dogs here at the research center. Would you like to meet them? Dogs? Veltris asked. What is a dog? They are animals that live with us. We keep them as companions. Brill checked his database. Commander, dogs are descended from wolves. Wolves are pack hunters with powerful jaws capable of crushing bone. They have sharp teeth, designed for tearing flesh. They can run at high speeds for extended periods. Yes, that sounds like dogs, Yuna agreed cheerfully. Ours are very friendly. They love meeting new people. Veltris felt a chill run through his body. These humans kept deadly predators as pets. They invited them into their homes. They called them friendly. What kind of species had evolved on this terrible world? What kind of minds could look at a bone-crushing predator and see a companion? The answers to these questions would terrify the entire galaxy. But for now, Commander Veltris could only sit in his chair, struggling against the gravity, surrounded by poison and toxic water and cheerful humans who had no idea how horrifying they truly were. I think, Veltris said slowly, that we have much to learn about your species. We would be happy to teach you, Yuna replied with that same warm smile. Where would you like to start? Veltris did not know. He did not know how to even begin understanding these monsters who called themselves human. Yuna insisted on giving the visitors a tour. She seemed genuinely excited to show off her world, completely unaware that every step of the journey would push the Valorians closer to panic. They started outside the research center. The sun blazed overhead, sending waves of radiation down onto the surface. Veltris watched in horror as humans walked around without any protection. Some of them had removed part of their clothing to expose more skin to the deadly light. They are trying to kill themselves, Brill whispered urgently. No, Yuna explained when asked. They are sunbathing. It feels nice. Also, our bodies need sunlight to produce certain vitamins. You need radiation to survive? Driss asked, his voice breaking. Just a little bit. Too much can hurt us, of course. But the right amount is good. The aliens tried to process this information. A species that required poison to stay healthy. It was beyond anything in the galactic database. Yuna led them toward a large body of water. It stretched to the horizon, vast and blue and terrifying. Waves crashed against the shore with tremendous force. This is the ocean, Yuna said proudly. Is it not beautiful? It is made of death, Brill said flatly. The salt concentration would dissolve our organs. The creatures inside would eat us. The pressure at depth would crush us. Well, yes, the deep parts are dangerous, Yuna admitted. But we swim in the shallow areas. It is very relaxing. As if to prove her point, several humans ran past them and threw themselves into the water. They splashed and laughed and dove beneath the surface. Tejo removed his outer clothing and joined them, disappearing under the waves before rising again with a happy expression. Come in, he called to Yuna. The water is perfect today. Maybe later, she called back. Then she turned to the horrified aliens. Are you sure you do not want to try? We could find you protective equipment. We are very sure, Veltris said firmly. Yuna shrugged and continued the tour. She led them to a food market where humans were buying and selling various items. The smells were overwhelming. And Brill's scanner went wild with warnings. These are fruits and vegetables, Yuna explained, pointing at colorful objects. This is meat from various animals. This is bread made from ground plants. We eat all of these. Veltris looked at the displayed items. Every single one registered as toxic. Some contained acids that could burn through metal. Others had compounds that would cause organ failure. One bright red fruit apparently contained a substance called capsaicin, which the scanner identified as a chemical weapon. Humans eat this? Veltris asked, pointing at a red fruit. Oh, peppers. Yes, they are delicious. They add spice to food. The scanner says this is a chemical weapon. Yuna laughed. It does burn a little bit, but that is what makes it good. The burning sensation is enjoyable. The Valorians stared at her with all of their combined eyes. These creatures enjoyed pain. They sought out foods that would cause their bodies to believe they were under attack. And they called it flavor. Teho rejoined them, his body still wet from the toxic water. He had brought food with him, a long piece of bread filled with various substances. This is a sandwich, he said, taking a large bite. Everything in that food would kill us, Brill said. Really? Even the bread? Especially the bread. The gluten would destroy our digestive systems. Teho looked at his sandwich with new appreciation. I never knew lunch was so dangerous. The tour continued through the city. Yuna showed them vehicles that moved at incredible speeds. She explained that accidents happened frequently, killing thousands of humans every year. And you continue to use these vehicles? Veltris asked. Of course, they are very convenient. But they kill your people. Everything kills us eventually, Yuna said simply. We try to be careful, but we cannot stop living just because things are dangerous. They passed a building where humans were engaged in physical combat. They punched and kicked each other, grappling on the ground, causing obvious pain. They are fighting, Driss observed. Should we call for help? No, Yuna said. That is a gym. They are exercising. The fighting is for fun and fitness. Fighting is fun? Veltris asked weakly. It releases stress. Also, it is good to know how to defend yourself. I'm not BNI. 18I. I'm not BNI. Defend yourself. Against what? On any other world, the environment was the main threat. But on Earth, even other humans were dangerous. They trained to fight each other for recreation. Teho pointed to a large structure in the distance. That is a stadium. Sometimes thousands of people gather there to watch sports. What are sports? Brill asked. Games where humans compete against each other. Running, jumping, throwing things, kicking balls. The competitions can be very intense. Why? Teho thought about this. I suppose because we enjoy pushing ourselves to be better. Faster. Stronger. More skilled. Competition drives us to improve. The aliens considered this a species that was constantly trying to become more dangerous. Not content with surviving one of the most hostile environments in the galaxy, they actively worked to make themselves even more powerful. Yuna led them to a park where children were playing. The small humans ran and climbed, and fell down repeatedly. They scraped their skin and got back up. They jumped from high places and laughed when they landed hard. Are those offspring not being supervised? Driss asked with concern. Their parents are nearby, Yuna said. But we believe children should explore and take risks. It helps them learn. They could be injured. They will be injured. Many times. It is part of growing up. One small human fell from a climbing structure and hit the ground. She began to cry, and an adult hurried over. The adult examined the child, wiped the tears away, and then put the child back on the climbing structure. That is insane, Brill said. The offspring was hurt, and the adult returned it to the source of danger. She needs to learn to climb properly, Yuna explained. Falling teaches her to be more careful next time. Also, falling is not so bad. Humans are quite durable. Durable. That was one word for it. Veltris thought of other words. Indestructible. Terrifying. Unstoppable. As the sun began to set, Yuna mentioned something casual that made all the aliens freeze. We should probably head inside soon. There is supposed to be a big storm tonight. Storm? Veltris asked. Yes. Lightning, heavy rain, strong winds, nothing unusual for this time of year. How strong are the winds? Yuna checked her communication device. About 100 kilometers per hour. Maybe some flooding in the low areas. Brill made calculations on his scanner. Commander, winds of that speed would destroy our ship. Flooding would contaminate everything with toxic water. This storm would be classified as a natural disaster on any civilized world. I suppose it will be, Yuna agreed. But we have shelters. We have emergency services. Most people will be fine. Most people, not all people. Some would die, and the humans accepted this as normal. They lived through disasters regularly, rebuilt what was destroyed, and continued existing on their monster of a planet. The walk back to the research center felt longer than before. The gravity seemed heavier. The air seemed more poisonous. The world seemed more impossible. Commander Veltris had seen many things in his career. He had visited hundreds of worlds. He had met dozens of species. But nothing had prepared him for humanity. They were not just survivors. They were conquerors of the unconquerable. They were masters of chaos. They looked at death and shrugged and went about their day, and they had no idea. They truly did not understand how exceptional they were. To them, this nightmare world was simply home. Veltris knew that his report would change the galaxy forever. The question was whether the galaxy was ready to learn what lived on the third planet from an ordinary yellow star. He suspected it was not. The storm arrived as promised. Commander Veltris watched from inside the research center as the sky turned dark and angry. Lightning split the clouds. Thunder shook the building. Rain fell so hard that it sounded like weapons fire against the windows. The Valorian ship, which had survived journeys across the galaxy, was nearly destroyed in minutes. Wind tore off external sensors. Water flooded the landing gear. By morning, it would need significant repairs before it could fly again. Inside the building, the humans continued working as if nothing was happening. "Does this not bother you?" Veltris asked Yuna. She looked up from her computer screen. "The storm? Not really. We designed this building to handle worse than this. Besides, storms bring rain. And rain makes things grow. Rain is toxic water falling from the sky. Rain is life," Yuna corrected gently. Without rain, everything would die. It was another contradiction that Veltris could not understand. The same substance that would kill his crew was essential for human survival. This world made no sense by any logical standard. As the night passed, Veltris spent time reviewing data. He had Brill gather all available information about Earth's history. What he discovered kept him awake through the storm. And long after it ended, Earth had experienced 5 major extinction events. 5 times. The planet had nearly killed everything living on it. Asteroids, volcanic eruptions, climate changes, ice ages. Each time, most species died. Each time, the survivors adapted and grew stronger. Humans themselves had nearly gone extinct multiple times. Their population had once dropped to just a few thousand individuals. Disease, war, natural disasters all had threatened to end them, but they survived. They always survived. "Look at this," Brill said, showing data on his screen. During one period, their planet was covered in ice. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Most species died, but humans survived by wearing animal skins and making fire. "They created fire?" Driss asked. "Deliberately?" "Yes. They tamed one of the most destructive forces in nature. They used it for warmth and cooking and light." Veltris shook his head slowly. "Every other species in the galaxy runs from fire. Humans domesticated it." The more they learned, the more terrifying humans became. They had weapons capable of destroying their entire planet multiple times over. They had split atoms to release energy. They had created diseases in laboratories. They had built machines that could think, and yet they had not destroyed themselves. Despite having every tool necessary for extinction, they continued to exist. They fought and struggled, and adapted, and survived. "Commander," Brill said quietly, "I have analyzed their military capabilities. Tell me, They have explosive weapons that can level cities. They have flying machines that can drop these weapons from great heights. They have underwater vessels that can hide for months. They have soldiers trained to fight in any environment: desert, jungle, mountain, ocean, even space. They have fought wars in space? Not yet, but they are preparing for it. Veltris felt cold despite the temperature controls in his suit. Humans were not only dangerous individually, they were dangerous collectively. They organized themselves into armies. They developed strategies. They built weapons of increasing power, and they had been doing this for their entire history. How many wars have they fought? Veltris asked. Brill checked the data, then he checked again. Commander, I cannot give an exact number. There have been thousands of conflicts throughout their history, sometimes multiple wars happening at the same time on different parts of the planet. Thousands of wars? Against what enemies? Against each other. The answer hung in the air. Humans were so aggressive, so competitive, so driven to fight, that they had spent most of their history battling their own kind, and through all of that conflict, they had grown stronger. Their weapons became more powerful. Their tactics became more advanced. Their ability to survive and win increased with every generation. If they ever unite, Driss said slowly, if they ever stop fighting each other and focus on external threats. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Veltris stood and walked to the window. The storm had passed. The sun was rising over a world that had tried to kill its inhabitants and failed. Humans were already moving around outside, cleaning up debris, fixing damage, continuing with their lives. One woman was laughing as she swept water from her doorway. A man was climbing a ladder to repair his roof. Children were jumping in puddles, splashing toxic water everywhere. They were resilient in a way that no other species could match. They experienced trauma and recovered. They faced destruction and rebuilt. They lost everything and started again. Yuna entered the room with containers of human beverages. Good morning. The storm was not as bad as expected. Only minor damage in the city. Your definition of minor is very different from ours, Veltris observed. Probably, she agreed with a smile. Tejo went to check on your ship. He says it will need some work, but it should be functional again in a few days. A few days? Our engineers can help. We have some experience repairing things after storms. Of course they did. Humans had been repairing things after disasters for their entire existence. It was as natural to them as breathing. Veltris made a decision. Yuna, I must be honest with you. When we first arrived, I was afraid of your species. Everything about your world seemed designed to kill, but now I understand something important. What is that? Earth is not a prison that holds you. It is a forge that made you. Every danger on this planet shaped your species into what it is. The gravity made you strong. The radiation made you adaptive. The predators made you clever. The disasters made you resilient. Yuna considered this. I never thought about it that way. For us, Earth is just home. That is what makes you extraordinary. You do not realize how powerful you are. You do not understand that no other species could survive what you survive every day. Is that good or bad? Veltris looked at her carefully. That depends on what you do with that power. Humans could be the greatest threat the galaxy has ever seen. Or you could be its greatest hope. The choice is yours. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. We have made many mistakes in our history. We have hurt each other and our planet in terrible ways. But we have also done beautiful things. We have created art and music and science. We have loved and cared for each other. We have dreamed of reaching the stars. And now the stars have come to you. Yes. And we want to be good neighbors. She extended her hand in a gesture that Veltris had learned meant friendship. Whatever comes next, we want to do it together. Veltris looked at her hand. Such a small thing, connected to such a dangerous creature, but also connected to kindness and hope and possibility. He reached out with his own appendage and touched her hand gently. Together, he agreed. Outside, the sun climbed higher over the death world called Earth. Its dangerous light fell on dangerous creatures living dangerous lives. But for the first time, Commander Veltris saw something other than fear. He saw potential. And that was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. The Galactic Council chambers were filled to capacity. Representatives from over 200 species had gathered to hear Commander Veltris present his findings. News of the discovery had spread quickly through official channels, and everyone wanted to know about the impossible species living on the impossible world. Veltris stood at the center of the massive room. His crew was beside him. Above them, holographic displays waited to show the evidence they had gathered. Honored council members, Veltris began. 3 weeks ago, my survey team discovered a planet in an unexplored sector. Initial scans classified it as a Class 15 death world. As you know, Class 15 is the highest danger rating in our system. Such worlds are considered completely hostile to intelligent life. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Class 15 worlds were legendary. Most council members had never even heard of one actually being found. What we discovered on this world has challenged everything we thought we knew about life in the universe. Veltris activated the displays. The planet is called Earth by its inhabitants. It orbits a yellow star approximately 40 light-years from the nearest Union outpost. Images filled the air. Earth from space, beautiful and blue and deadly. The ocean covering most of its surface. The continents with their varied landscapes. The swirling clouds that brought storms and disasters. Earth's gravity is 1.5 times the Union standard. Its atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which is highly flammable and toxic to most species. The star produces dangerous levels of radiation. The water is corrosive. The native life forms include millions of predator species. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some made sounds of distress. The images showed animals with teeth and claws and poison, plants with thorns and toxins, insects that could spread disease. Everything on Earth seemed designed to kill. And yet, Veltris continued, intelligent life evolved on this world. Not just evolved, thrived. The images changed to show humans, walking through their cities, building their machines, living their lives. The council watched in stunned silence. They call themselves humans. There are approximately 8 billion of them on the planet. They have developed technology, culture, society. They have built civilizations that have risen and fallen and risen again. They have survived every disaster their planet has thrown at them. Veltris paused to let this information settle. 8 billion. The number was almost impossible to comprehend. 8 billion beings capable of surviving Class 15 conditions. I spent 2 weeks among them, Veltris continued. I studied their history, their capabilities, their nature. What I found was both terrifying and remarkable. He showed data about human physical abilities, their endurance that allowed them to run for hours without stopping, their strength that came from growing up in crushing gravity, their adaptability that let them survive in deserts, jungles, mountains, and ice. Humans do not die easily. They heal from injuries that would kill most species. They recover from diseases that should be fatal. They adapt to conditions that should be impossible. They simply refuse to stop existing. The council members exchanged worried glances. A species that would not die was a species that could not be stopped. But that is not what makes them truly dangerous, Veltris said. What makes humans dangerous is their minds. Images showed human technology, weapons that could destroy cities, machines that could fly between worlds, computers that could think, medical advances that extended their already impressive lifespans. They achieved all of this while constantly fighting each other. They divided themselves into nations and competed for resources. They waged wars that killed millions. They nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. And through all of that chaos, they continued to advance. Veltris looked at the council with all 4 of his eyes. Imagine what they could accomplish if they stopped fighting among themselves. Imagine what they could do if they united and looked outward. Imagine 8 billion Class 15 survivors working together toward a common goal. The chamber was completely silent now. Every being present was imagining exactly that scenario. And every being was afraid. So what do we do? Asked a council member from the Trill Collective. Do we destroy them before they become a threat? Do we contain them? What is your recommendation? End quote. Veltris had thought about this question for weeks. He had considered every option, and he had reached a conclusion that surprised even himself. My recommendation is that we welcome them. Shocked sounds erupted from every direction. Delegates shouted objections. Some demanded to know if Veltris had lost his mind. He waited for quiet before continuing. I know this seems insane, but let me explain. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, they could be a terrible threat. But they could also be the greatest allies the Union has ever known. He showed images of Yuna and Teho and the other humans he had met. Their kindness, their curiosity, their hope. Humans are not evil. They are not monsters seeking to destroy. They are survivors who want to reach the stars. They want to explore and discover and connect with others. They want to be good. How do you know this? Demanded another council member. Because I saw it. I saw humans help each other after a disaster. I saw them care for their young. I saw them create art and music for no reason other than beauty. I saw them extend friendship to strangers from the sky. Veltris stepped forward. The humans have a saying. What does not kill me makes me stronger. Everything about their world tried to kill them, and they became the strongest beings in the galaxy. But strength does not mean violence. It can mean protection. He let that word hang in the air. Protection. Think about the threats the Union faces. The Void Pirates. The Krell expansion. The unstable regions where no species can maintain order. Now imagine human soldiers protecting trade routes. Human engineers building stations in hostile environments. Human explorers mapping dangerous territories. The council began to murmur differently now. Not with fear, but with consideration. Humans want to be part of something larger than themselves. They have spent their entire history looking up at the stars and dreaming. We can be that dream. We can offer them connection to a greater community, and in return, they can offer us something we have never had before. What is that? Asked the council leader. Hope that anything is survivable. Proof that no challenge is too great. Living evidence that even a Class 15 death world cannot stop a species determined to exist. Veltris turned off the displays. The chamber fell into thoughtful silence. My recommendation is first contact protocol. Full diplomatic engagement. Trade agreements. Cultural exchange. Integration into the Galactic Union as a member species. And if they become hostile? Someone asked. Then we will face the most dangerous enemy in the history of the galaxy. But I do not believe that will happen. I believe humans will surprise us all, not with their capacity for destruction, but with their capacity for kindness. The council debated for hours. Arguments were made on every side. Fears were expressed. Hopes were shared. Finally, a vote was called. The result was not close. The majority voted for engagement. The minority voted for caution, but no one voted for aggression. The Galactic Union would reach out to humanity. The Class 15 survivors would be invited to join the greater community of species. The monsters of the Death World would have a chance to become something else entirely. Back on Earth, Yuna received a message from the departing Valorian ship. Veltris had sent it just before jumping to faster-than-light travel. Thank you for showing us your world. Thank you for your kindness. The galaxy is coming to meet you. Be ready. Be yourselves. And remember that the stars have been waiting for you all along. Yuna smiled and showed the message to Teho. They stood together and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, thousands of species were learning that they existed. The universe was about to change. Earth had always been a death world. But for humanity, it had always been something else too. It had been a beginning. And now, finally, the rest of the galaxy understood that the deadliest planet in known space had created something wonderful. Not despite its dangers, but because of them. Humanity was coming to the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again.